Well, welcome back, my friends, family, and well, all you fine nerds out there. Today, at this moment, we are going to do something a little different than the other episodes because we're talking about heroic abilities. That's right. Welcome back to the Midgar Press. Today in Dragonbane Rulebook, we are going to be discussing the heroic abilities. Now, you see what I did there? It's almost like I was trying to trick you. And just for reference, we have the young mallard bard, Quaxum Honeytongue of Green Pond, because over here on the left side of character sheet, the abilities and spells are blank. Now, we're going to fill these in, though. We're going to fill these in. Now, I like to, because each pin gets their specific heroic ability. Now, with mallards, they get two. They get web feet and they get ill-tempered. And we're going to put these in here. And the reason I put mallard over here next to the actual heroic ability is that way I know, and I do this with all my pre-gens, I do this so that way I can reference easier. So when a player is at a table and they're like, hey, I want to do, what's this heroic ability mean? If it has the kin next to it, it means that it's kin specific. If it's kin specific, it's not going to be in the heroes or the heroic abilities section of the rule book. It's only in the beginning where the kins are. And they do that for a specific reason, because the heroic abilities within chapter 3 from 35 to whatever page it's on, those are heroic abilities anybody can pick up. Now, some of them have requirements that you have to meet in order to take it, but they only, there's only some that are in the front of the book. Now, just as an example, Assassin, the very first one. We're going to go back and read this, don't get me wrong, but I want to discuss this. Assassin, it's the very first one. The requirement is you must have knives. That is a weapon skill. You have to have it at 12. That is a minimum requirement. Now, why couldn't they have just put the heroic abilities, all of them, like the kin specific, in the heroic abilities section and just put requirement? Mallard, or halfling, human, wolfkin, elf, dwarf, so on and so forth. Why did they just do that? This is one of the things that kind of grinds my gears. I wish that all the heroic abilities, even the kin specific, were here within the heroic abilities. I really wish they were. I understand why they're not, because they are kin specific, but if you're going to have requirements under some of these heroic abilities, why not just go ahead and include all the heroic abilities and put requirement human, requirement elf, so on and so forth? Why not? It just makes it easier, because I either have to flip to that section or I have to flip to the beginning section, and again, that's why on the character sheet I put mallard, because it just makes sense for me. So let's go to the very beginning where we have mallard real quick. Getting there. Here we are. Ability, ill-tempered. And then webbed feet. Now, one of the things I like to do, I also like to put how much willpower each one costs. The reason I do that is because you're going to flip back and forth through the book to figure or to remember what the ill-tempered or web feet is if you don't remember off the top of your head. And as a GM, I don't remember everything. I'm still working on remembering everything within this book. I referenced D&D 5th edition before, where I am a DM. I have done quite a bit of dungeon mastering with 5th edition, where I am the game master. I've run a couple campaigns. I've run endless amounts of one-shots, all the way from level 1 all the way up to level 20. I do that quite a bit. And again, with D&D 5th edition, there's so many rules, I cannot remember all the rules. Plain and simple, I just can't. But with Dragonbane, with it just being a fresh TTRPG, just being freshly released, and it's not even freshly released yet, it's still not even released yet. We're still in the final stages of the Kickstarter. The book itself is not fully released until August. I think that's when it said, August. So it's April right now, May, June, July, August. So we still got like 4 months, y'all. Are y'all pumped for this? 4 months. Keep watching these videos. Keep learning how to play Dragonbane with me, and we'll get you where we need to go. So, side note, tangent. You know me if you don't know me yet. So, heroic abilities. I put Mallard right there. Put Mallard right there, so that way I know these are Mallard-specific heroic abilities. Now, can a Mallard get an Elven heroic ability? No. Can they get a human? No. Now, if a GM wants to play all loosey-goosey and give you that, that's fine. GMs really have the final say. If they want to give it to you, they can give it to you. I mean, it would make it more interesting. It would make the variety a little bit more spicy. Maybe it's something I'll look into later on. But for right now, we're keeping it as it is. It is a Mallard-specific ability, heroic ability at that. Ill-tempered, willpower 3. Boom, boom, right here. Web feet, no willpower. Ooh, let me change that to a 0. So what do these willpower, or what do they say? Mallards tend to have a chloric temper. I don't think I said that right. You can activate this ability, no action, when making a skill roll and get a boon to the roll. You also become angry if you are not already. This ability cannot be used against intelligence or intelligence-based skills. Then we've got web feet. As a Mallard, you also get a boon to all swimming rolls. You always move at full speed in or under water. Now, makes sense to me. You're a duck. You're a Mallard. You should be able to do that. So, and there are multiple adventures within Dragonbane, within the adventure book, that require swimming. And we'll get to the adventure book at some point. But right now, we're still covering the rule book. So I've got both of those listed right there. We're good. We're going to go back to heroic abilities. All right. So described are a number of heroic abilities. All player characters except mages get 1 heroic ability at each start of the game. Now, they get 1 plus their kin-specific heroic ability, okay? You can earn new ones as described on page 29. Note that some heroic abilities require a minimum skill to be learned. For example, Assassin. Like I said, there is a requirement of 12 in knives. Now, Honey Tongue of Green Pond over here has a 10 in knives, so I cannot learn Assassin if I wanted to. Some cost willpower points to activate, others do not. Unless stated otherwise, it is impossible to combine multiple abilities in the same action. For example, Assassin and Dragon Slayer, but you must pay the willpower cost for each ability you wish to use. And that's just one of those things. If a GM says you could, but you had to pay the willpower to do both. And you've only got so much willpower, and you only get so much willpower back per round rest, stretch rest, and shift rest. Just remember that. Some heroic abilities require optional rolls. If you are playing with these optional rolls, those heroic abilities should not be used. So let's get into the heroic abilities. Let's go back to the very beginning, though. Let's go all the way to the very first kin, and we're going to cover all of those heroic abilities. Then we'll come back to here and cover all of these, because I told you we were going to cover them. We just weren't going to cover them at the time we were recording. That was like, what, episode 4, I think? Yeah, episode 4. So, humans. So they have the ability called adaptive. It's 3 willpower points. When rolling for a skill, you can choose to make the roll using another skill of your choice. You must be able to justify how you use the selected skill instead of the normal one. The GM has the final word, but should be lenient. So, if a character wants to use, if you have a human player character and they want to go find some animals, I don't know, they want to go hunt some animals, but instead of using hunting and fishing, they want to use bushcraft. Explain why. If a player character wants to use persuasion instead of bartering, give me a reason. Tell me why. Tell me why. If a player character wants to use riding instead of seamanship because they're riding a boat, explain why. If a player character wants to use let's see, what else can we do? Wants to use myth and legends rather than beast lore, roll me why. If you'd rather use an acrobatics rather than seamanship, tell me why. The players have to be able to give you a reasonable description as to why they want to use a different skill than the skill they should be using. And it's up to the GM. Like it said, it's up to you. Halflings, hard to catch, 3 willpower points. You can activate this ability when dodging an attack, getting a boon to the evade roll. Now, that is very handy, especially if you're playing, I don't know, a halfling thief? Yeah, even a halfling hunter, halfling fighter. I mean, if you're up front and you don't have the necessary protection, hard to catch would be pretty good to have. Dwarves, unforgiving. I like this one. Unforgiving. Willpower points, 3. You can activate this ability when attacking someone who has harmed you in the past at least 1 point of damage and get a boon to the roll. So you roll at advantage to hit them. It does not matter when the damage was inflicted. It may be wise to write down the names of everyone who harms you so you do not forget them. Now, I'm running a in-person campaign, and we're going to get to all of that another time. But within the campaign, one of my players is playing a dwarven merchant. And I don't know where he found it. I forget where he found it. He might have found it on Amazon for all I know. He found a book, and on the front of it, it says Book of Grudges. So anytime somebody hurts him with at least 1 point of damage, and they don't, if they become unalived, or he doesn't have to worry about it. But if they somehow get away, he writes their name down in that book. And that's just excellent. I love that idea. Because then he gets a boon advantage to hit them, to attack them. That's a fantastic. Now, I would really love for Unforgiving to become a heroic ability that anybody could get, I think that'd be fantastic. And hard to catch. I mean, the first three, Adaptive, Hard to Catch, Unforgiving, those would be great heroic abilities, but instead they are kin specific. Inner Peace, no willpower points. For an elf, you can meditate deeply during a stretch rest. You heal an additional d6 HP and an extra d6 WP, willpower. You can recover from an additional condition. You are completely unresponsive during meditation and cannot be awakened. Hold up. Hold up. Hold the phone. So during a stretch rest, okay, that's 15 minutes. Ordinarily, for any player character, you get 1d6 of HP, you get 1d6 of WP, and you get one condition removed. And you're telling me with Inner Peace, you get 2d6, both HP and willpower at two conditions? What? That's pretty good. Even Ill-Tempered, that we already talked about, and Webbed Feet. I mean, okay, the Webbed Feet has to stay specific to the Mallard, but Ill-Tempered, you can't tell me you wouldn't use that in a different kin. You can't tell me you wouldn't. Wolfkin, Hunting Instincts. Willpower points 3. You can use this ability to designate a creature in sight, or a creature you can catch the scent of as your prey. This counts as an action in combat. You can follow the scent of your prey for a full day. You can spend one further willpower, not an action, to gain a boon for an attack against your prey. So 3 willpower to remember the scent, to be able to track your prey for one day. And then you get one, you can spend one further willpower to gain a boon against this enemy. That's fantastic. Why couldn't all hunters get that? Or why can't all knights or fighters? Why not? That's fantastic. I love that. But it is a Wolfkin specific. So maybe that's something to look into. Maybe it's something that these kin specific heroic abilities, let's make them for anybody. I think that's a fair designation. Go ahead. If you disagree with me and you think they should stay kin specific, put it in the comments. Let's talk about this. I'm very curious what your all's opinion is. But let's go ahead and talk about the other ones. Let's go. There we are. Okay. So, Assassin. Requirement, Knives 12, Willpower 3. Your sneak attack, age 43, we haven't got there yet, deals an extra D8 damage. This heroic ability can be combined with the heroic ability Backstabbing. You activate this ability after you roll to hit, but before you roll damage, okay? 2 things, big things right there. 1, it says it can be combined with another heroic ability. And 2, it says you have to activate this before you roll to hit, or it says you can activate it after you roll to hit, but before you roll damage. So that's pretty big. That's pretty big. You'll see that with some of these heroic abilities where it tells you certain conditions have to be met before you can use the ability. Sorry, little parched. Backstabbing. Requirement, Knives 12. So again, it's the same with Assassin. You have to have a Knives requirement of 1 to 12. Willpower points is 3. You can activate this ability when making a melee attack against an enemy that is also within 2 meters of another character. So your attack then counts as a sneak attack, which means it cannot be dodged or parried, which is important. You get a boon on the roll, and the number of dice rolled for the damage is increased by 1. So, for example, a 2d8 instead of a d8. This ability can also be used with subtle weapons, page 74. and we'll get into those. Activating this ability does not count as an action. Does it continue on? No. That's huge. To have both of those, I mean, you could really, like, if your sneaking score is high, you could really get into some fun situations where you're soloing an entire map of villains. Yeah. Check out this Wolfkin. Look at this guy. He looks like a fighter. I love the art. Next episode, we're doing art, okay? Just next episode, we're going to go through this entire book and the adventures book, and we're just doing art. That's just what we're doing. I'm making a note right now. Okay, done. Battle cry. So requirement is 0. Willpower points is 3. You can, as an action in combat, let out a battle cry that inspires your friends. All other player characters within earshot immediately heal a condition of their choice. That's pretty good. That could be good for... That could be good for a bard, because they're in the back. I'm going to go ahead and put that down right now. We're going to put that down. And we may not stick with it. But I like that. We're going to use that for the bard. Berserker. Requirement, any melee weapon with a weapon skill of 12. Now, Honey Tongue is not built for combat, baby. He's not. Or she's not. I don't know. We haven't really talked about that. It is not built for combat. It is built... Well, it's not really built for anything. We just didn't roll that well. Anyways, willpower points is 3. You gain the angry condition and immediately attack the nearest opponent in melee combat. If already angry, you gain another condition of your choice. So this is a situation where we talked about in the last episode with the skills, where if you already have this condition, you take another one of your choice. You then must keep fighting until all opponents within sight have been defeated or you reach 0 HP. You gain a boon to melee attacks, and you can neither dodge nor parry. After the fight, you become exhausted. That'd be really good for a fighter, a hunter, or maybe a knight. Pretty good. Cat-like. Requirement, acrobatics of 12. Willpower points, varies. The number of d6 rolled for damage from a fall decreases by 1 each willpower point spent. You can first make an acrobatics roll and then activate this heroic ability. So you can first make your acrobatics roll to see if you pass, then you can activate this ability. So you don't spend any willpower until you know it's going to succeed. I like that. It's fair. It's very fair. Companion. Requirement, hunting and fishing 12. Willpower points is 3. You can activate this ability to turn an animal, not a monster, into your companion. Now, there are animals in this game that are not monsters. This takes a stretch of time, which is 15 minutes, and only you can have one animal companion at a time. The GM decides which animals are nearby. See the list on page 99. And it gives 11 animals that are common, so that way you can pick which one. The animal follows you as long as you remain in its natural environment, and it can scout for you at no additional willpower cost, but for an additional 3 willpower, you can command the animal to attack an enemy, free action for you. So even though you're spending willpower, you get essentially, you get 2 initiatives per round, or 2 actions per round. It can come in handy, because the base game, you will always ever have 1 action per round. That's it. Unless you have some heroic ability, which we'll get there in a second. Contortionist. Requirement, evade 12. Willpower points 1. You escape from your shackles or squeeze through a narrow space without rolling for any skill. Could be handy. Defense. Requirement. Any melee weapon skill 12. Willpower points 3. Oh, let's get that moved. And make that a little larger so you can see my face. You may attempt to parry an attack, page 46, without consuming your action for the round. The bonus parry can be used at any time during the round. You may only try to parry the same attack once. This ability can be used multiple times per round as long as you have enough willpower. Trust me, dodging and parrying are very beneficial, so defensive is pretty good. Deflect arrow. Requirement, any melee skill 12. Willpower points 1. You can parry a ranged attack with a melee weapon instead of using a shield. So you can bring up a sword or an axe or a mace or a staff, whatever it be, to deflect the arrow without having to use a shield. Disguise, bluffing 12. Now I could get this. Honey Tongue could get disguise. Let's see what it says. Requirement, bluffing 12, willpower points 2. You are a master of disguise, and you can easily assume, okay, if anybody knows what I just did, master of disguise, if you know that, put it in the comments. I want to see if you know. And can easily assume the appearance of others. After working for a stretch, 15 minutes of time, you can assume another person's looks, voice, and demeanor. The person must be of the same kin as you. Anyone who knows that person and sees you from up to 10 meters away can make an awareness roll to see if they see through your disguise. Not bad. But they have to succeed on their awareness roll. Not yours, theirs. So, double slash. This is where I was talking about with the multiple, like you only get one action per round. This could give you 2. So requirements is axes and swords 12, willpower points is 3. When wielding a slashing weapon, you can attack 2 enemies within 2 meters with a single slash. You only roll for the attack once. If it succeeds, both enemies are hit. Your enemies can parry or dodge the attack individually. Damage is rolled separately. This ability can be combined with dual wield, which we'll get to in a second. Dragon Slayer. Requirement, any weapon skill of 12. Willpower points, 3. An attack aimed at a monster, not a normal NPC, deals an additional D8. You can activate this ability after you roll to hit, but before you roll for damage. Read more about monsters in Chapter 7. Dragon Slayer's pretty handy, I will say. Dual wield. Requirement is any melee weapon skill of 12. Willpower points is 3. This heroic ability can only be used if you wield a one-handed weapon in each hand. Now, once we get to the gear, you'll actually see where all the weapons either have one-handed grip or two-handed grip. And it's specifically saying you have to have 2 weapons with one-handed grip. The strength requirement of any weapon of your offhand, you decide if it is the right or left, increases by 3. You activate this ability on your turn in combat, and you can then perform an extra attack with your second weapon. The second attack is done with a Bane. You decide in which order to use your 2 weapons, finish the first attack including damage before rolling the second one. This ability can be combined with double slash. So, in this game, you cannot dual wield. Just can't. You can have a shield and one-handed weapon. You can have a one-handed weapon and a torch. But for some reason, you can't dual wield. I don't know. But it just adds to the role play. You know, it adds to character progression. Eagle Eye. Requirement, awareness 12, willpower points 2. You can see a person or object up to 200 meters away in great detail. as if standing right next to it. The effect lasts for one stretch, 15 minutes. In combat, you can also shoot a target beyond the weapon's effective range, page 49, without getting a bane on your roll. This heroic ability must be activated for each new target. So it's not just, activate it and you can see everything. It's specifically for one target at a time. Fast footwork requirement, evade 12. Willpower points 3. You must attempt to dodge an attack, page 47, without consuming your action per round. The bonus dodge can be performed at any time during your round. You may try to dodge the same attack once. So you can't dodge, if you fail the first time, you can't try it again. This ability can only be used, or this ability can be used multiple times per round as long as you have enough willpower. Fast footwork is a good idea, especially if you're good at evading. Fast healer requirement, nothing. Willpower points, deuce. You heal an extra d6 during a stretch rest. This heroic ability does not affect willpower or conditioned. So it says this ability does not affect willpower or conditions. That means recovering. You still have to use 2 willpower points to use this heroic ability, but it does not affect you recovering any willpower or conditions. Fearless requirement, none. Willpower, deuce. You automatically resist fear without a roll to a willpower roll. So that could be that could ensure so you can resist fear. The whole point of this game is to scare your characters, to give them conditions. Now, some monsters make player characters specifically, roll on the fear table. So if they are fearless, they will not roll on the fear table. But they can still take in conditions because they can push their roll. So, it could work, it might not work, who knows, we'll see. But fearless is a good one. Focused requirements is 0. Willpower points, 0. Your maximum number of willpower points is permanently increased by 2. You can select this heroic ability multiple times without limit. So that's a thing. There's only 2 ways in this game to either A, gain more willpower, or B, gain more hit points. Focused is specifically for willpower. For you magic users, very, 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 very important. For anybody who plans on using multiple abilities, heroic abilities, very often, kind of important. Guardian requirements, axes, hammers, or swords at a 12. Willpower points is deuce. You do not hesitate to take a hit to protect your friends. If you or another player character are both within 2 meters of the same enemy and the enemy tries to attack the other character, you can activate this ability to force the enemy to attack you instead. Using this ability can be done out of turn and it does not count as an action. So this would be good for you knights, those of you that have really high armor and helmet scores, so you can just take the hit. Insight requirement, persuasion 12. Willpower points, deuce. If you talk a while with another person, you can roll awareness to determine whether the person is telling the truth. You cannot tell exactly what a person is lying about. So in D&D 5th edition, there is the ability to roll an insight check. Simply just see if somebody is lying about something, or if they're telling you the truth. In this game, in Dragonbane, there is no such rule. And I've had a couple characters say, hey, I would like to make an insight check to see if they're telling the truth. And I've told them, sorry, Can't do it. There's no roll for that. Now, I know in the skills we said that if there's no specific skill for that role, you can use an attribute. No, I don't want to give my players insight. If they want insight, they can play 5th edition, or they can take the heroic ability of insight. I'm sorry. Intuition. Requirement, Myth and Legends 12, willpower points 3. When faced with a difficult decision, you can activate this ability to ask a question directly to the GM and receive a helpful answer. The answer represents your vast general knowledge and should only aid in your decision making, not reveal everything there is to know. The way that I read this and interpret it is that you ask, like you activate this ability, you take 3 willpower, and you ask the GM, and the GM just says, yes, you should go that way. Or what you're looking for feels like it's the left instead of the right, something like that. Iron Fist. Requirement, Brawling 12, willpower points 1. The damage of an unarmed attack increases to 2d6. You can activate this heroic ability as a free action after rolling the attack. Personally, I think that would be perfect for mages. When you run out of willpower, you just run up and start hitting stuff with your fist. Iron Grip. Requirement, Brawling 12, willpower points 1. You get a boon to your brawling roll when you try to grapple another person to prevent the enemy from breaking free. Lightning Fast. Requirement, Evade 12, willpower points 2. When drawing initiative card at the start of a combat round, page 41, you may draw 2 cards instead of 1 and choose which one you want. You can only activate this heroic ability once per round. Now, that's kind of cool. If there's benefits to going first, there's benefits to going last. It really just depends on what character you're playing as, to be honest. That depends on if you should go first or last. Lone Wolf. Requirement, Bushcraft 12, willpower points 0. You can take a shift rest in the wilderness without first rolling for Bushcraft to make camp. The effect only applies to you, even if you have a tent. Magic Talent. Requirement 0, willpower 0. You have an aptitude for magic and can learn a new school of magic, whether you already know one or not. Spells need to be learned separately. For more information on how it works, see page 61. This heroic ability can be selected multiple times, one for each new school that you want to learn. So, if you are a mage, a wizard, and there's only 3 schools of magic, and you already know one, you can take Magic Talent, you can learn a second school. You can take Magic Talent again and learn all 3 schools, which could be very handy, because some schools of magic are better than others depending on what you're trying to do. If you're up front and trying to attack stuff, one of them's going to be good. If you're trying to be in the middle to be a support, then one of them's pretty good. If you're in the back trying to hit stuff from afar, then one of them's pretty good. It all depends on what you want to do, how you want to cast magic. Massive Blow. Requirement, any strength-based melee skill of 12. Willpower points is 3. A strike with a strike with a 2-handed melee weapon inflicts D8 additional points of damage, but you cannot move in the same round. You can activate this ability after the roll to hit, but if you've moved. So basically, you dig in to deal more damage. So, Master Blacksmith. Requirement, crafting 12, willpower points varies. This ability requires blacksmithing tools. In one stretch, you can sharpen a bladed or pointed weapon at the cost of 3 willpower. Against a sharpened weapon, the armor rating of the item counts as 1 step lower. The effect wears off after one combat encounter after the weapon has been used to attack or parry. In one shift, you craft a metal weapon or metal armor of your choice from the list on pages 73 to 75. It requires a forge, an anvil, and an iron, weight of 1. The cost in willpower is equal to the item's price in gold. You can spread the work across multiple shifts if you don't have enough willpower. Yeah, there's some items that cost multiple hands of gold. Let's just say that. And we'll get there when we get to gear. So, Master Carpenter requirements is crafting 12, willpower varies. So, again, this ability requires carpentry tools. As an action, you can inflict a d12 points of damage per willpower spent on a door, wall, or any other inanimate object, ignoring the object's armor rating. Because all these doors, they do have hit points, they do have armor. In one shift, you can take the time to craft a wooden item of your choice, such as the club, staff, shield, from the list on pages 73 to 75. It requires wood, weight 1 or determined by the GM, and costs a number of willpower points in the item's pricing gold rounded up. The GM decides the cost for unlisted items. Okay. Master Chef requirements 0. Willpower points 1. You automatically succeed at cooking food without rolling for bushcraft. Master Spellcaster. Requirement. Any magic spell or any magic skill of 12, willpower points is 3. If you activate this ability on your turn in combat, you can cast 2 different spells as a single action. It must be 2 different spells. You can roll for this first spell and then activate this heroic ability. So essentially, it's like Warcaster, if I remember correctly from 5th edition, if I remember correctly. Master Tanner. Crafting 12, willpower varies. This ability requires leather working tools. You can craft 1 set of leather armor from the skin of an animal or a monster. The armor gets half of the beast's armor rating rounded up, but always at least 1. It takes 1 shift, and the cost of willpower is equal to the item's armor rating. So, blacksmith, carpentry, and tanner, all about the same. And we're on the last page. I know this is a long video, but there's a lot of heroic abilities, so just stick with me. We're almost done. Monster Hunter. Requirement, Beast Lore 12. Willpower points is 3. At a crossroads of some kind, you can activate this ability to learn the direction of the most dangerous enemies. I actually like this. You can just kind of sense it and you just ask the GM, and the GM tells you where the most dangerous monster is, or enemy, whichever. Musician. Requirement, performance 12, willpower points is 3. Your beautiful voice instills courage in your friends or fear in your foes. Activating this ability as an action in combat gives all your allies within 10 meters a boon to their rolls or a bane to the enemies within the same range. Choose one or the other. The effect lasts until the end of your turn in the next round. Instruments. You can use the instruments from the music ability. You can increase the ability's range or reduce the cost in willpower. So this is the one that they were saying is good for bards. They specifically suggested this one when we were picking professions. So I still like Battle Cry, but Musician could be a good one. I like Musician. I like the way that it works. You can give boons or banes to either friendlies or enemies. I like that. Pathfinder. Requirement, Bushcraft 12, willpower points 1. You get a boon to your bushcraft when trying to find the right direction in the wilderness. Quartermaster. Requirement, Bushcraft 12, willpower points 1. You are good at finding suitable campsites. You automatically succeed at making camp during the journey. Robust. Now, this is the other one I was talking about. So, requirements is 0. Willpower points is 0. Your max HP increases by 2. This heroic ability can be selected multiple times without limit. So, robust and focused. Those are the two that you can take endlessly to get more willpower points or more hit points, depending on what you're trying to do. Sea legs. Requirement, swim 12, willpower 1. You can activate this ability, not in action, when performing an action in water. Even if it is only waist deep, you are then safe from all negative effects of being in water for 1 round, including the risk of drowning. Shield block. Requirement, any strength-based weapon skill of 12, willpower points 2. You can activate this ability when pairing with a shield to roll with a boon. Using this ability, you can also parry physical monster attacks, not area effects, that normally cannot be parried. This requires a shield, and you get a boon to the roll. This ability can be combined with defensive. I'm telling you, shield block. If you're up in the front and you have a shield, you should have this because monsters hit hard sometimes. Throwing arm. Requirements. Any melee skill of 12. Willpower points, 2. You can throw a melee weapon with tremendous force at an enemy within your strength meters away. It must be a one-handed weapon. Roll the attack as normal. The enemy can parry or dodge the attack as usual. The weapon lands at the enemy's feet. Treasure Hunter. Requirement, bartering 12, willpower points is 3. At a crossroads of the same kind, you can activate this ability to learn the direction of the greatest treasures. Basically, you activate this ability and you ask the GM, where's the good stuff? And they tell you. The GM tells you. Twin shot. Requirement is bows 12. Ugh. Willpower points is 3. By activating this ability, when attacking with a bow, not crossbow, you can shoot 2 arrows instead of 1. Basically, you're Robin Hood. The arrows can be directed at the same target or 2 different targets. But when you roll to hit, just roll once to hit with a bane. So hopefully you hit. Veteran. Requirement, any weapon skill of 12, willpower points is 1. Activating this ability at the start of a combat round allows you to retain your initiative card from the previous round instead of drawing a new one. Doing so does not count as an action. For more information on combat and initiative, see Chapter 4. And then Weasel, the very last one. Requirement, evade 12, willpower 3. If you are attacked and have another player within 2 meters, you can activate this ability to let the attack hit that character instead of you. This ability has no effect against area attacks. So earlier where we had Guardian and you take the hit for somebody, this one says, oh, swoop, you attack that guy. Which, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. So I want you to post in the comments for me. I want you to tell me which one of these heroic abilities you like the most. Tell me which one you think would be good for a hunter. Or tell me which one you think would be good for a scholar. Yeah. Let me know that. Let me know that. I want to know which one's your favorite, which one's good for a hunter, and which one's good for a scholar. So do the thing for me. Like, comment, share, share to your Facebook, share to your group, share to your character or to your fellow players. and get them excited about Dragonbane, because I'm excited about Dragonbane. But as always, live on and game on, my friends. See y'all next time.